Good day, fish tankers. This here is Jack.
Hello fish tankers.
Jack is an avid aquarist, but he needs a bigger tank. He is starting to suffer from multiple tank syndrome. As we can see, yes, we know those goldfish can't be in that small tank, but we have a plan. There's a garden pond waiting for them, so that'll be another day. But there's this big gap on this desk of his, and he wants a 2-foot tank. And this is me, and in my garage, as you can see, there's lots of odds and ends and bits and bobs, old aquarium equipment, new equipment, spare equipment, heaters, lights, and I've also just leak tested this 20-gallon high tank that's been standing here. And a lot of you guys have asked me to do a step-by-step video on how to set up a deep substrate dirted tank with material that we commonly have available in South Africa. And I thought, why not do that video to show you step by step how I do it. And then young Jack can also have a new aquarium. So it's a win-win situation because I think he really deserves it. He looked after his fish well. You can see these platies are thriving, and there's a few corridoras as well. And there's even some breeding action. You'll see a baby platy on your screen just now. So if you want to see the build, stick around. Okay, so why a dirted tank and not just aqua soil and CO2 or just gravel and root tabs for a planted aquarium? Well, young Jack is of school-going age, so he's short of two things. One is cash, so it's got to be something that we can set up on a shoestring that's going to look good, and I know from experience of my tanks it works. And it also has to be low maintenance. We don't want to buy a lot of fertilizers and root tabs, and it mustn't take all his time from his studies. So that mustn't require constant water changes and pruning, and for that, this type of ecosystem is ideal. And it starts with a soil layer, and for that we start out with some peat moss, this brick of peat moss that you can find at Builder's Warehouse. And you take about 2 liters of hot water and you pour it over the peat brick in the bucket, and you just leave it and it'll absorb the water and become soft. You just crush out the lumps. And then you have the usual peat moss that we use for our gardens. Now let's go to the other ingredients. Now, in addition to the peat moss, we have organic compost. Also from Builders, it's important that it says organic compost, some bone meal, and some organic potting soil, and also some Epsom salts over there. Now, this is a formula that I follow. It's 2 parts peat moss. I'm going to use a mug as a measuring cup. I'm going to take 2 mugs of a peat moss, put it in the mixing bucket, and then we take 1 part of organic potting soil. So I'm going to take 1 mug of potting soil and just add that to the peat moss, and then of course 1 part of organic compost, which we are also adding to the mix. Now you can use only organic potting soil. I've seen that work, but not only peat because it has got no nutrients, and not only compost because too rich. Now I know this is not going to be enough, so I'm going to repeat 2 measures of peat moss and 1 measure of organic potting soil, and we follow that with 1 part organic compost. I know this amount works for a 60 by 30 centimeter, 24 by 12 inch footprint. And then we add a flat teaspoon of Epsom salts to the mixture. I find that also works as a plant nutrient, but in small amounts. And then I'm just going to take a handful of bone meal, add that to the mixture too. I find, because I have very soft water, the plants do well with it, and it also buffers your pH slightly to about 7, and it prevents those pH drops. It just puts a little bit of hardness in the water too, so it works very well in my soft water. And even if you have hard water, this amount shouldn't do any harm. So you mix it thoroughly in the bucket. You don't want patches of only compost or only potting soil or only peat moss. You want to make this into a soil mixture like you see there. So you mix it up thoroughly so that it's all blended together. There you go. And then I'm going to add some water. And here you've got to err on the side of caution. Don't put a lot of water in because you don't want a soup. You want a thick sort of mud with sort of a wet but thick consistency like we used to make mud pies as kids. So you add some water and then you can add a little bit more. And you just mix it till you have sort of a sticky mud. But it must not be sloppy. You don't want slop. You want it's kind of a mud. Like that. You can even add a little bit more water to it. Mix it all in a little bit until you have a right consistency. Now this method was pioneered by Dr. Diana Walstead in the 90s, a book for Ecology of a Planted Aquarium. I definitely didn't invent it. And now we're going to go in and we're going to lay this soil mixture down on the bottom of an aquarium. And then the dirted tank concept was sort of championed by YouTuber Father Fish, who added the deeper layer of sand. What Diana Walstead's one wasn't quite as thick. And he also has supplements that he adds that we don't have, that can't find here in South Africa, can't order. But basically, you just lay down the soil on the aquarium. It is supposed to be 1 inch thick, not more than 1 inch. That's 2.5 centimeters. I never really measure it. I just cover the entire bottom with a soil mixture. But don't overdo it. 2 inches if you're only going to do a 3-inch substrate is too much soil. So don't overdo it with a soil, no more than 1 inch. And you basically cover the entire bottom of the aquarium. If you don't like the way it looks on the side of a glass, you can keep it away from the side of a glass and just put sand around there and over top and you won't see it. But Jack says he wants to see all the layers, and to me it also doesn't matter. Here's the sand. It's got a 1 millimeter grain thickness. You can take pool filter sand or any other kind of sand. Mine is a little bit coarser, but you mustn't have a thicker grains than 1 millimeter. We don't want gravel here. That won't work. So not your normal fish tank gravel. It can be any kind of aquarium sand or even pool filter sand, but not gravel, not that sort of thicker or bigger grain size. That won't work. And you cover the soil layer now with sand, and it's important that you use enough. You will always think this is enough, but then add some more. You want a deep layer of sand there because you want a deep substrate because it helps in the end in reducing nitrates over and above growing the plants. And here's the finished product. There we have it, a 3-inch substrate, 7.5 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters of soil, the rest sand. I don't think the soil here is quite 2.5 centimeters, but it's important that it is 7.5 centimeters in total. Now we're going to take sponges out of this little power filter of mine. We're going to take this filter sponge in my tanks that I run in, and we're going to transfer the mature filter media, right into this tank. There we see the dirty sponges. The ones already up here. You can't see that little power filter because of a black background. That's why I like black backgrounds. But we're going to put the sponge filter in here. Maybe do it when the tank is all full, but I know I'm going to work fast here. And you don't want it drying out because it's got all that good bacteria in. And this way we have an instant cycle. We don't have to worry about cycling the tank. We have instant bacteria in here to consume the nitrite and ammonia. And all this filter gunk, I'm just going to pour it over the substrate because it's got lots of beneficial bacteria. This is how you instantly cycle a tank. Now we're on to the hardscape. And we're going to put in some spiderwood, but spiderwood and all other wood that's not been waterlogged floats. So we're going to wedge some stones, river stones into it to weigh it down. I'm just wedging it. You can make it easier on yourself by using cotton balls or paper toweling with super glue. I don't know why I have an aversion to glues and stuff in my aquarium. I try to avoid chemicals for some reason, but that works. That would have been faster maybe. There we've got the hardscape sort of nailed down. You've got to take a bit of time of it. I'm not George Farmer, I know. And then I put some Java moss. I tied it around the river stones with aquascaping thread. And I'm just going to wedge that in there because Jack wants his eventual cherry bulbs to breed like mine, and that's great to once it grows out for breeding action. And this Java moss I'm just going to tie up there with some more aquascaping thread. It would have been better to do it outside of a tank in retrospect, but I needed to weigh it down and see what it's going to look like. And here we have our plants. We've got a nice big Amazon sword plant, and the rest are all cryptocorynes. I love those plants, so does Jack. And we wanted to do something else in the Vallisneria, and there we go, planting it. You just stick it into the sand. You can fill the tank halfway, but I find it's easier if I just do it like this and use my hands. But just make sure you keep the plants moist. Spray them down every so often so they do not dry out. And there we have it. And I'm going to go ahead and plant the entire tank like this. So let's add the rest of the plants. Okay, so that takes care of that. We've planted the tank and now we've got to start filling it up. Now what's important here is that you don't pour the water straight through the cap and release all the soil. Pour it on your hand, or in this instance I've got Jack's hand to use, or pour it on the hardscape slowly, or even on a dinner plate will do. And you just slowly pour it in without disturbing the sand. That's the important takeaway. Do not disturb the sand. Pour it on something that disperses the water, and in the water goes. Okay guys, there we've got the water in, and we're going to add some water conditioner just to be on the safe side. I'm pouring in some Tetra Aquasafe. Guys, please take a moment. There we see a finished product. Please take a moment and hit that like button. Greatly appreciate that always. You'll see it's a bit misty. That's normal. We've got the filters working. All the plants are in. And it's soon to be on temperature. It's summer here, so it's not cold. And we're just going to leave that for a day, carrying on like that so that the tank can settle. And there you got a closer look. Here we are, we're 2 days later, and we see the tanks going. That light is a little bit too weak. It would work for a smaller tank, so we're going to have to do something about that light somehow. And what else? We see that the tank is a bit murky. There's some nice biofilm developing there on the spiderwood. If I take this a little bit closer, I don't know if you can tell, probably not. So there is something going on there. We're just going to do some water tests, and then we'll put some fish in after a big water change. So Jack, what's the plan? What fish are we going to put in there?
So the plan is, what I would like to do, what we're going to do is we're going to get about 5 or 6 or 7 bronze corridors. It's going to be at our bottom half.
Yep.
Then we're going to get about 6 cherry bulbs. The ratio to male to females is probably going to be 3 to 3 males and 3 females. I just love that bright red that the males get off when it's in the planted tank. And then we're gonna do harlequin spores, not the S-Spy, the harlequins. That's instead of the top of the tank, so it's all basically different levels. It's going to look really nice.
So you've got them all layered there for the bottom and the middle and the top. So that is what the plan is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you better get cracking, do that water change. And we've tested the pH. It's a little bit on the lowish side. It's around about 6.2, 6.4, but it should be all right. because these are all soft water species. We might just buffer it a little bit with crushed coral, just to be certain, because we've got very soft water here, to avoid some pH crash. And then we've got to do something about that light and maybe that thermometer as well. People, we're going to start a GoFundMe here, fish tankers, because the money is running out. Or I'll go rummage through my garage, maybe there's something lying there and we can make a plan. All right, let's get cracking. Okay, so here we are a day later. We're adding some cherry bulbs there. We've tested the water. There's 0 ammonia and nitrite. There are nitrates. There's some more cherry bulbs. And the water is quite murky, but as long as we don't have ammonia and nitrite, we're fine. And there goes some Espeiras boras, a group of 8 of them. And we've also added some Otocinclus. And you can see the biofilm there, that fuzzy stuff on the spider wood is very good stuff for your ottos to get them started. You can see the fish are happy. There the otto is already going after the biofilm. And it looks good so far. So here we are a day later. It has basically cleared up. Now what you'll find with these dirted tanks initially, and remember we have an instant cycle here because we used season filter media, and you've got to be careful not to overfeed. You feed very, very sparingly, only a little bit once a day. Guys, please share the content among your fishy friends who would like to know how to set up a low maintenance, economical, that doesn't break the bank planted tank. And here we are 2 weeks later, and now we are adding some Corydoras. We waited a while and you can see the tank has settled. The water is clear, and this is now almost just over 3 weeks later, and I'm measuring the nitrate. And you see the nitrate has dropped quite drastically. We did 2 50% water changes in the first week, and then we left it, and this is after about 3 weeks, and the nitrate just went straight down to 1 ppm. So it's minuscule. That's why these tanks are so low maintenance. You can see the fish are happy and they are feeding. Look at those cories and cherry bulbs going. And this is a finished product. And I think we've made a nice little tank here. 24 days later, this is what it looks like. And I think we did a good job. We have some algae, but we'll get that under control once we get our lighting cycle dialed in. We're going for 6 hours of light here, maybe a little bit less. Guys, please remember to punch that subscribe button. And until we see each other again, take good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.